Maya Chen's hands gripped the steering wheel of her 2007 Honda Civic as she pulled up to the drop-off lane at Northside Academy. The bumper rattled, duct tape holding it together after last month's parking lot incident, and she caught the brief flicker of embarrassment that crossed her son's face before he smoothed it away. "Mom, you know you can just drop me at the corner," Leo said, already reaching for his backpack. "I know what I can do." Maya kept her voice light, but her eyes tracked the sleek autonomous vehicles gliding past them, their chrome surfaces catching the morning sun. Hollywood ads flickered along their sides, cycling through luxury brands and investment opportunities. One proclaimed in neon script, "Your status. Your future. Your choice." Leo paused, one hand on the door handle. At 14, he'd inherited her bone structure and her stubbornness, but his eyes held something she'd worked hard to give him, a quiet certainty that didn't need external validation. Same time, same time. She watched him disappear into the crowd of students, most wearing neural interface bands that pulsed with soft blue light, status indicators synced to their family's social credit scores. Leo's wrist was bare. She'd never bought him one, despite the school's strong recommendations. The grocery store was 3 miles away, and Maya used the drive to mentally inventory what they needed. She pulled her coupon tablet from the cup holder, an older model, the kind that didn't sync with predictive shopping algorithms or broadcast your purchasing data to every retailer in a 50-mile radius. At each red light, she scrolled through digital deals, clipping what they could use. Generic pasta. Store-brand protein bars. The discount produce that always appeared Thursday mornings. Inside the store, the cashier's eyes held that particular blend of pity and curiosity that Maya had learned to ignore. The woman's neural band pulsed green, middle tier, respectable, while she scanned Maya's rewards card. "You saved $47 today," the cashier said, too brightly. "That's amazing." Maya smiled, the expression not quite reaching her eyes. Every bit helps. She paid in cash, which always drew looks. Most people used biometric payment now, their purchases instantly logged and analyzed, their spending patterns fed into the vast machine that calculated social worth. Cash was anonymous. Cash left no trail. Cash was what Maya preferred. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms in a building that had been scheduled for smart renovation 3 years ago and then forgotten. No automated climate control. No holographic entertainment system. No walls that changed color based on your mood. Just books, plants that Leo tended with surprising dedication, and furniture she'd found at estate sales and thrift stores. The couch was real leather, though worn. The coffee table was solid oak, though scratched. Everything in the space had weight, history, the kind of permanence that couldn't be downloaded or upgraded. Maya set the groceries on the kitchen counter and opened her laptop, a device so old it actually had a keyboard you could touch. The screen flickered to life, and after entering 3 separate passwords, she accessed the dashboard that no one, not even Leo, had ever seen her use. ThreadSecond HQ founder portal. The interface was elegant, minimalist, nothing like the cluttered designs that dominated most tech platforms. Revenue metrics scrolled across the top. Q3 had closed at $247 million. Up 34% year-over-year. 15 different venture capital firms had requested meetings in the past month alone. Her CFO had sent 3 increasingly urgent messages about the IPO timeline. Maya dismissed them all with practiced efficiency. She opened a private folder labeled Leo, Stanford Fund and reviewed the balance. $2.7 million, invested conservatively, growing steadily. Another folder, Anonymous Contributions, showed her philanthropic footprint. $12 million donated over 5 years to women's shelters, environmental nonprofits, scholarship programs for first-generation college students. No names attached. No press releases. No social credit score boosts. Her tablet chimed, a video call from Diana Torres, Thread Second COO and the only person besides her lawyer who knew the full scope of Maya's double life. Diana's face appeared on screen, her expression somewhere between exasperation and amusement. Girl. When are you going to tell them? Tell who what? Don't play. Your family treats you like a charity case, and you sit there eating their pity like it's Thanksgiving dinner. Maya leaned back in her chair, the wood creaking slightly. The moment I tell them, everything changes. Victoria will suddenly remember she always believed in me. Derek will have investment opportunities. Patricia will start introducing me as my daughter. The tech entrepreneur. I want Leo to grow up around people who value him for who he is, not what his mother's net worth is. And what about you? Diana's voice softened. Don't you deserve that too? Maya didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was complicated, layered with years of small humiliations and the peculiar freedom that came from being underestimated. Her phone buzzed, an actual call, not a hollow projection. Her mother's contact photo appeared, Patricia Chen, perfectly coiffed, wearing the same expression of mild disappointment she'd perfected over 7 decades. Maya answered. Hi, Mom, Maya, darling. Patricia's voice carried that particular tone, warmth wrapped around judgment. I'm calling about Thanksgiving. Victoria is bringing a very important guest this year. A venture capitalist client. James Huang from Apex Capital. It would look incomplete if you weren't there. Family unity matters, even if some of us are doing better than others. Maya's jaw tightened. I'll be there, wonderful. And Maya? Tried to dress appropriately. First impressions matter, and we wouldn't want to embarrass Victoria in front of her client. Perhaps something professional? I could send you some options, I'll handle it, Mom. After they disconnected, Maya sat in the quiet apartment, listening to the ambient sounds of the city beyond her walls. No AI assistants offered suggestions. No smart home system adjusted the lighting to match her emotional state. Just silence, and the weight of a decision she'd been postponing for 14 years. She pulled up the family group chat on her phone. Victoria had posted an hour ago, the message dripping with performative excitement, bringing James Huang to Thanksgiving. Managing partner at Apex Capital, $500 million sustainable tech fund. Major networking opportunity for the family. Derek, he might be interested in your waterfront development. Richard, he invests in medical tech too. Dressed to impress everyone, Maya had muted the chat years ago, but she still checked it occasionally, the way you might observe an ecosystem you'd once been part of. Derek had responded with 3 flame emojis. Sienna had posted a selfie with the caption, "Can't wait to meet the money man." Patricia had sent a string of champagne glass icons. No one had tagged Maya. No one ever did. She opened her private messages and texted Diana, "I think I'm done hiding." The response came immediately, "About damn time." What changed? Maya thought about Leo's face that morning, the brief flash of shame about the car. Thought about the way her mother's voice had dripped with pity. Thought about 15 years of keeping herself small, invisible, safe, everything, she typed. Nothing. I don't know. Sunday brunch at Victoria's estate was a monthly obligation that Maya had learned to endure with the same stoicism she'd applied to every other uncomfortable family ritual. The house sprawled across 3 acres in the hills, all smart glass and automated systems, the kind of place that recognized your biometrics before you reached the door and adjusted the temperature, lighting, and music to your supposed preferences. Maya's preferences, the house had apparently decided, were ambient meditation sounds and soft apology lighting. Leo climbed out of the Honda, his thrift store jacket hanging slightly too short on his growing frame. He'd hit a growth spurt in the past 6 months, shooting up 3 inches, and Maya hadn't had time to find replacements that fit properly. He caught her looking and shrugged. "It's fine, Mom, I know it's fine. Then why do you look like you're about to commit a crime?" She laughed despite herself. Do I? You get this face. Like you're planning something. He studied her, and she was struck again by how observant he'd become. Are you planning something, maybe? Would that bother you? He considered this, seriously, the way he approached most questions. Depends on what you're planning. If it's murder, probably yes. If it's finally telling them the truth about thread second, definitely no. Maya stopped walking, key still in her hand. How long have you known? About a year. He had the grace to look slightly guilty. I didn't snoop or anything. I just noticed things. The way you moderate disputes on the platform, you use the same phrases you taught me. Fair value isn't about profit, it's about respect. That's word for word what you said when I was pricing those vintage sneakers. And you didn't say anything. I figured if you were keeping it secret, you had a good reason. He met her eyes, and in that moment, he looked years older than 14. But for what it's worth, I think you should tell them. Not because they deserve to know, but because I'm tired of watching them treat you like you're failing at life when you're actually crushing it. She pulled him into a hug, quick and fierce. When did you get so smart? Genetics, probably. Victoria's front door opened before they reached it, facial recognition, automated hospitality protocols. A holographic greeter materialized in the entryway, all smooth corporate polish. Welcome, Maya Chin. Welcome, Leo Chin. The family is gathered in the solarium. Please proceed through the main hall. The solarium was a monument to excess. Retractable glass ceiling, climate-controlled exotic plants, furniture that cost more than most people's annual salary. Victoria held court at the center, wearing a designer dress that probably required its own insurance policy. Her neural band pulsed platinum, top tier, the kind reserved for people whose social credit scores could open doors in every major city on the planet. Derek sprawled in one of the modernist chairs, his attention half on his phone, which projected a holographic display of property listings above his palm. Sienna sat beside him, her own phone angled to capture the casual family brunch content she'd later edit and post to her 500,000 followers. Patricia presided over it all from the head of the table, silver hair perfectly arranged, wearing the expression of benevolent matriarch that she'd cultivated over decades. Maya. Victoria's greeting was too loud, too performative. You made it. And is that a new sweater? Maya glanced down at the thrift store cardigan she'd worn specifically because it was comfortable. Had it for years, oh. Victoria's smile didn't waver, but something shifted in her eyes. Well, it has character. Derek looked up from his holographic display. Maya. Honda still running? I keep expecting to see it on the side of the highway with smoke pouring out. I've got a guy who can get you financing, even with your situation. My situation, you know. He waved a hand vaguely. Single mom, limited income. Credit might be tricky, but there are options for people who need help. Sienna angled her phone to capture the table, deliberately positioning it to exclude Maya and Leo. Her lips moved silently as she added text overlay, brunch with the successful side of the fam. Patricia sighed, the sound carrying across the room like a weather system. Victoria, do you remember when you girls were young? You were both so promising. Life takes us in different directions, I suppose. Different directions, Maya repeated, her voice carefully neutral. Well, yes. Patricia gestured at Victoria's platinum neural band. Derek's expensive suit, the holographic wine list hovering in the center of the table. Some people make choices that lead to success. Others. She trailed off, the implication hanging in the air like smoke. Leo had gone very still beside Maya, his jaw tight. Blair and Chloe, Victoria's daughters, were whispering to each other, their eyes fixed on Leo's bare wrist. No neural band, no status indicator, nothing to broadcast his worth to the world. Is that from Goodwill? Blair's voice carried across the table, pitched loud enough for everyone to hear. Your jacket. It looks like Goodwill. It is, Leo said, his voice steady. Oh my God. Chloe covered her mouth, but her eyes were bright with cruel amusement. That's so sad, Victoria made a show of gentle concern. Blair, that's not kind. Maya, honey, I could take you shopping. Get you and Leo some proper clothes. No judgment, presentation matters when you're trying to rebuild. The word hung there, sharp and cutting. Rebuild. As if Maya's life were a disaster site requiring rescue and reconstruction, Maya felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the weight of every assumption, every pitying look, every careless comment that treated her existence as a cautionary tale. Leo's hand found hers under the table, a quick squeeze of solidarity. That's generous, Maya said, but we're fine. Are you though? Patricia's voice was soft. Almost kind, which made it worse. Maya, it's been 15 years since your divorce. 15 years, and you're still struggling. At some point, one has to examine the choices being made. Mom, Victoria started. I'm just saying, Patricia continued. Victoria was a single mother briefly after her first marriage, and she didn't let it derail her entire life. She went to law school. Built a career. Met Richard. There's no shame in asking for help. The words landed with surgical precision, each one designed to remind Maya of her supposed failures, her inability to meet the family's standards, her persistent refusal to conform to their definitions of success. Derek's phone chimed. And he glanced at it, then looked up with sudden interest. Hey, Vic, this client you're bringing to Thanksgiving, James Huang? I just looked him up. His fund is massive. 500 million in sustainable tech. You think he'd be interested in hearing about my waterfront development? That's exactly why I'm bringing him, Victoria said, her voice warming with professional pride. James is brilliant, well-connected, and I need us all to make a good impression. Which means, she looked pointedly at Maya. We need to present as a successful, unified family. The implication was clear. Maya's presence threatened that presentation. Sienna was filming again, narrating in the breathy voice she used for her luxury lifestyle content. Just hanging with the Chen family, talking about big moves and bigger opportunities. This is what it looks like when you work hard and dream big. Maya watched her, this woman who'd never worked a day that didn't involve camera angles and ring lights, who'd built a following by documenting the wealth of others and claiming it as inspiration. The irony was so thick Maya could taste it. I actually need to head out soon, Maya said, pushing back from the table. Leo has homework. It's Sunday, Patricia said. Surely he can stay for dessert. We really should go. Victoria stood, her expression shifting to something that might have been concern if Maya didn't know better. Maya. Wait. Before you leave, she glanced at Derek, some unspoken communication passing between them. We've been talking, as a family, about how we can better support you. The air in the room changed, tension drawing tight. Support me, Maya said carefully. Yes. Victoria's smile was warm, professional, the same one she'd probably used on opposing counsel. We want to establish a Chen Family Foundation. A charitable fund to help struggling relatives get back on their feet. And we thought, what better first recipient than you? The words hit like ice water. Derek leaned forward, enthusiasm animating his features. We're talking 50,000 to start. Enough for a down payment on a reliable car. New clothes for job interviews, maybe some career counseling. We want to help you get a fresh start. Richard, Victoria's husband, nodded sagely. No shame in accepting help, Maya. We've all had setbacks. Sienna's phone was up again, capturing the moment. This is what real family looks like, guys. I'm literally crying. The Chen family is so generous. Maya stood frozen, Leo's hand still in hers, feeling the full weight of their charity, their pity, their absolute conviction that she needed saving. They'd packaged her humiliation as kindness, wrapped her supposed failure in concern, and prepared to present it to the world as evidence of their generosity. "That's very kind," Maya said, her voice distant even to her own ears. "But I'll have to decline, Maya." Patricia's voice sharpened. "Pride is a luxury you can't afford." "Your son deserves better than, my son," Maya interrupted, her voice cutting clean, "is none of your concern." She walked out, Leo beside her, leaving them in their glass palace with their assumptions intact and their pity wasted. In the car, Leo was quiet for several blocks before he spoke. "You okay?" "No," Maya said honestly. "But I will be, good." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "Because I just got notification that someone bought my vintage Nike listing on Thread second. $320. I'm donating half to the Ocean Wildlife Fund and keeping half for my college savings." Maya glanced at him, this person she'd somehow raised despite everything. "You're a good person, Leo. I had a good teacher." He paused. "Mom? At Thanksgiving. Whatever you're planning." "I'm with you." She reached over, squeezed his hand. "I know." That night, after Leo had gone to bed, Maya stood in her bedroom staring at two outfits laid out on the bed. On the left, the old thrift store cardigan, comfortable and familiar, the armor she'd worn for years. On the right, a cashmere sweater in deep emerald, perfectly tailored black trousers, simple elegant jewelry, an outfit she'd purchased that afternoon from a small boutique downtown. Mrs. Lin, the owner, had recognized her immediately. "Maya Chen. I haven't seen you since you bought that interview suit 7 years ago, the navy one. I wore it to pitch investors." And now, Maya had met her own eyes in the mirror, seeing something she hadn't allowed herself to see in a long time. "Now I'm done being invisible." She picked up her phone and texted Diana. "Next Thursday. I'm telling them everything." The response came immediately, "About time." "You need backup?" "Just moral support. And maybe champagne after, deal?" Maya, "Yeah, they're going to lose their minds." Maya smiled, looking at the two outfits, two versions of herself, two possible futures. "I know." She chose the emerald cashmere. Thanksgiving morning arrived with a particular quality of light that made everything feel staged, artificial. Maya stood in her bedroom, the emerald cashmere sweater laid out on the bed like a declaration of war. Her fingers traced the fabric, soft, expensive, nothing like the thrift store armor she'd worn for 15 years. The old cardigan sat folded in her bag, a security blanket she wasn't sure she'd need. Her neural interface, one she'd kept deactivated and hidden, pulsed faintly on her dresser. She'd purchased it years ago, registered under her business credentials, tied to accounts that reflected her actual net worth. She picked it up now, feeling its weight, the cool metal against her palm. One activation, and her social credit score would broadcast platinum status to every scanner in range. Everyone would know, immediately, that she wasn't who they thought she was, but that felt too easy. Too impersonal. She left it on the dresser. Leo appeared in her doorway, dressed carefully in clothes that fit properly for once. Maya had taken him shopping earlier that week, to a sustainable clothing co-op that specialized in quality basics. Nothing flashy, but nothing obviously second-hand either. He looked older somehow, standing straighter, his expression carrying the weight of someone about to witness something significant. "You ready?" he asked. Maya pulled on the cashmere sweater. Feeling it settle against her skin like confidence made tangible. "As I'll ever be." "Diana's already there." "She went early. Said she wanted to scope out the exits." Maya smiled despite her nerves. "Also, she wanted to eat some of Victoria's expensive appetizers before everything went sideways." "Smart." Leo paused, then added quietly, "Mom? Whatever happens today, I'm proud of you. I haven't done anything yet, you've done everything. You just haven't let them see it." They took the Honda, because of course they did. The car rattled and coughed as they navigated the hills toward Victoria's estate, passing sleek autonomous vehicles that glided by with silent superiority. Maya's hands were steady on the wheel, muscle memory from thousands of drives, but her mind raced through possibilities, outcomes, the dozen different ways this could unfold. Victoria's house rose into view like a monument to excess, 3 stories of smart glass and automated systems, the kind of place that recognized your biometrics before you reached the door and adjusted everything to your supposed preferences. Maya had always found it oppressive, this house that thought it knew what you needed before you did. The circular driveway was already crowded with vehicles. Derek's Porsche gleamed near the entrance, next to Sienna's sponsored Tesla with its holographic ad panel scrolling luxury brands. Richard's medical transport, some kind of hybrid thing that probably cost more than most people's houses. Patricia's chauffeur-driven sedan, because she'd never learned to drive herself and saw no reason to start, and there, parked slightly apart from the others, was a modest Volvo sedan. At least 10 years old, Maya estimated, with actual wear on the exterior that suggested real use rather than calculated aesthetic. She felt something shift in her chest, recognition, maybe, or hope. Leo noticed it too. That's got to be him, James Huang, the venture capitalist who's been trying to meet you for 2 years. Maya killed the engine, and they sat in the sudden quiet, the Honda ticking as it cooled. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see movement inside, silhouettes of people preparing for the performance of Family Unity. Sienna's livestream equipment was already set up, multiple camera angles capturing the aesthetic table settings. Victoria moved through the space with practiced precision, adjusting details that didn't need adjusting. You know what the worst part is? Maya said quietly. Part of me still wants them to just love me. Not my money, not my success. Just me. Leo's hand found hers. I know. But Mom? You can't make people see what they're determined not to see. You can only show them the truth and let them decide what to do with it. When did you get so wise? Genetics. He squeezed her hand once, then released it. Come on. Let's go make history. The front door recognized their biometrics. Victoria had added them to the system years ago, probably for moments exactly like this. The holographic greeter materialized, its voice smooth and corporate. Welcome, Maya Chen. Welcome, Leo Chen. The family is gathered in the main dining room. Please proceed through the east corridor. They followed the predetermined path, their footsteps echoing on marble floors. Maya caught glimpses of herself in the smart mirrors that lined the hallway. The emerald sweater looked good, she had to admit. She looked like someone who belonged here, even if she'd never felt that way. The dining room opened before them, a cathedral of consumption. Crystal chandeliers that probably cost more than her first year of college hung from a ceiling programmed to shift color based on the time of day. The table was set with china so delicate Maya had always been afraid to use it, each place setting worth more than her monthly rent used to be. Sienna was already performing, her phone's holographic capture system projecting multiple angles as she narrated to her followers. Guys, this is what Thanksgiving looks like when you work for it. The Chen family goes so hard. Manifesting this energy for all of you, Victoria turned at their entrance, her smile bright and practiced until she actually saw Maya. The smile faltered, recalculated, reformed into something more uncertain. Oh. Maya. You came. Her eyes tracked over the emerald sweater, trying to place it, to categorize it in her mental filing system of acceptable versus questionable. And is that a new sweater? It is, Maya said, keeping her voice neutral. Victoria moved closer, her fingers reaching out to touch the fabric before Maya could step back. The gesture was invasive, proprietary, a small violation disguised as interest. It's nice. Where from? TJ Maxx. Before Maya could answer, Patricia swept into the room, her neural band pulsing platinum, announcing her status to anyone with eyes to see. She'd aged gracefully, Which was to say expensively. Her face held the particular smoothness that came from regular cosmetic interventions that cost more than most people's cars. Maya, darling. Patricia's embrace was brief, performative, her hands barely touching Maya's shoulders. You look different. Are you feeling well? You seem flushed. Then her eyes found Leo, and her expression shifted to the particular brand of affection she reserved for her grandchildren who disappointed her. Leo, sweetheart, give Grandma a hug. Oh my, have you grown out of those pants already? They look quite short on you. Leo's voice stayed level, calm, the way Maya had taught him to respond to provocations disguised as concern. I'm still growing, Grandma. It happens. Derek materialized from the kitchen, drinks in hand, Richard trailing behind him like a well-dressed shadow. Derek's mural band pulsed gold, not quite platinum, a fact that clearly bothered him based on how often he adjusted it. Well. Maya actually showed up on time. Derek's laugh was too loud, too performative. Shocked the Honda made it all the way here. What's your mileage now? 200,000, 182,000, Maya said. Still runs perfectly. Richard stepped forward, his expression carrying that particular blend of pity and superiority that doctors sometimes wielded like surgical instruments. You know, Maya, I could introduce you to my financial advisor. Help you budget for a newer vehicle. Even a lease could be manageable with the right planning. The condescension settled over her like fog, thick and suffocating. But Maya had spent 15 years learning to breathe through it, to let it slide past without taking root. Beside her, Leo gave a small nod, solidarity, support, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this. Then the energy in the room shifted, subtle but unmistakable, like the moment before a storm when the air pressure changes and you know something's coming. A man emerged from Victoria's study, and Maya understood immediately why the Volvo had caught her attention. James Huang was handsome in a way that didn't announce itself, fit but not performatively so, well-dressed but not flashy. He wore dark jeans, a cashmere sweater similar to Maya's in charcoal gray, and boots that showed actual wear. His mural band was deactivated, she noticed, the way hers was. A choice, not an oversight. There was intelligence in his eyes, the kind that actually processed what it saw rather than just cataloging social worth. He moved through the room with quiet confidence, the sort that didn't need validation or announcement. Victoria's transformation was instant and complete, her entire posture shifting into what Maya privately called her client mode, performative charm calibrated for maximum professional impact. Everyone. This is James Huang, managing partner at Apex Capital. James, this is my family. She gestured around the room like a game show host revealing prizes. My husband Richard, my brother Derek and his fiancée Sienna, my mother Patricia, and, her hand waved vaguely in Maya's direction, that's my younger sister Maya and her son Leo. The dismissal in that gesture was practiced, refined through years of family gatherings where Maya occupied space but not significance. James noticed. Maya saw his eyes track the gesture, process it, file it away for later consideration. He shook hands methodically, working his way around the room, but when he reached Maya, something changed. His handshake lasted a fraction longer than necessary, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Maya. Her name in his voice sounded different, like a question rather than a label. What do you do? Victoria's interruption was immediate, her voice too bright, too quick. Oh, Maya does bookkeeping from home. Very flexible for single motherhood. James, let me show you the wine cellar. We have a 2005 Margaux I've been saving. But James didn't move, his attention still fixed on Maya. Bookkeeping. What kind of clients? Maya chose her words carefully. Aware of 15 years of deception about to potentially unravel. Small businesses. Tech startups, mostly. Companies trying to scale sustainably, something flickered in James's eyes, recognition, maybe, or suspicion. His head tilted slightly, processing, calculating. Derek's laugh cut through the moment. Maya's being modest. She basically balances spreadsheets for people running Etsy shops. But hey, someone's got to do it, right? The room expected James to laugh along, to join the comfortable dismissal. Instead, his voice went cold, professional, the tone of someone correcting a fundamental misunderstanding. Actually, financial consulting for early-stage tech companies is incredibly complex. You need to understand burn rate, unit economics, cap tables, liquidation preferences. It's a highly specialized skill set that most CFOs struggle with. Silence landed like a physical thing. No one had expected defense, validation, respect. Especially not from James Huang, the man they'd all been performing for. Maya met his eyes and allowed herself a small smile. It can be. If you care about doing it right. The air between them charged with something Maya couldn't quite name, recognition, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. James smiled back, and it transformed his face from merely handsome to genuinely compelling. Victoria's voice cut through the moment, sharp with irritation poorly disguised as hospitality. Well, shall we sit down? Dinner is nearly ready. The dining table revealed its strategic cruelty in the placement of name cards. Victoria had positioned James between herself and Patricia, prime real estate for networking and impression. Derek sat across, perfectly positioned to pitch his waterfront development. Maya and Leo were relegated to the far end, near the kitchen door, close enough to be present, far enough to be insignificant, but James did something Maya didn't expect. He picked up his place card, studied it briefly, then casually switched it with Derek's, moving himself to Maya's end of the table. The gesture was smooth, almost unnoticeable, but Victoria's eye twitched with suppressed irritation. James, she said carefully, I thought you'd want to sit near Patricia. She has such wonderful stories about. I'm sure I'll hear them, James said easily, settling into his new seat 2 chairs from Maya. But I'm curious about Maya's tech consulting work. It's rare to meet someone who actually understands early-stage financials. The first course arrived, something elaborate involving foam and microgreens that had definitely been catered despite Victoria's earlier implications of home cooking. The conversation became a performance, each family member auditioning for James's attention and approval. Victoria launched into a detailed explanation of her sustainable investment portfolio. Richard described his pioneering regenerative procedures. Derek pulled up holographic displays of his waterfront development, the images floating above the table like ghosts of future profit. Sienna interrupted everything by pulling out her phone, angling it toward James. Wait, can we get a picture for my grid? James, you don't mind being featured, right? My followers love success stories. James's refusal was polite but firm. I prefer to keep a low profile. But Derek, you were saying about the waterfront development. Maya watched him deflect Sienna's attention while simultaneously validating Derek enough to keep the peace. It was masterful, really, the social intelligence required to navigate this family's dynamics without causing offense while maintaining his own boundaries. At the far end of the table, Blair and Chloe had turned their attention to Leo, their voices pitched to carry to the adults. Leo, is that the same jacket you wore to Grandma's birthday? Blair's tone dripped with false concern. Like, the exact same one, Leo's response was calm, unfazed. Yeah. It still fits. Chloe leaned forward, her neural band pulsing gold like her father's. Don't you have other clothes? I got like 5 new outfits just for fall. I don't really need 5 outfits, Leo said. This one works fine, that's so sad. Blair looked to her mother, performing concern. Mom, can't we give Leo some of Dad's old clothes or something? Victoria's stage whisper carried perfectly across the table. Blair, not now. It's complicated. Maya felt her jaw tighten. but before she could respond, she felt pressure on her knee, Leo's hand, steady and reassuring under the table. "Don't," the gesture said. "I'm okay. This doesn't touch me," but James had gone very still, his knuckles white around his fork. Maya saw the muscle in his jaw flex once, twice, before he carefully set down his utensils. Patricia chose that moment to sigh, the sound theatrical and weighted with years of maternal disappointment. "You know, when Victoria and Maya were girls, I made sure they always had the best. Piano lessons, ballet, private tutors, the finest neural interface education programs. I gave them every opportunity to succeed." She paused, letting the implication settle. "Some children simply make better use of their advantages than others." Maya's voice came out quieter than she intended. "You did, Mom. And I'm grateful, are you?" Patricia leaned forward, her platinum neural band catching the light. "Because it's been 15 years, Maya. 15 years since your divorce, and you're still struggling. At some point, one has to examine the choices that led here." Victoria made a weak attempt at intervention. "Mom, maybe we should, I'm just saying," Patricia continued. Victoria was a single mother briefly after her first marriage, and she didn't let it derail her entire life. She went to law school. Built a career. Met Richard. There's no shame in asking for help, Maya. We're family." The words landed with practiced precision, each one a small cut disguised as concern. Maya had heard variations of this speech at every family gathering for over a decade. The script never changed, just the audience, but this time, James interrupted, "If I can offer an outside perspective." His voice cut through Patricia's building momentum. "Maya, how long have you been in tech consulting?" "About 15 years. Since right after my son was born, so you started a business as a new single mother with an infant." James leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "That takes extraordinary discipline. Most startups fail in the first year, and you managed to not only survive but apparently thrive enough to still be operating 15 years later." Victoria's laugh was nervous, wrong-footed. "Well, business is a generous term. It's more of a freelance situation," James cut her off, his attention never leaving Maya. "And you specialized in tech startups during their growth phase. Series A, Series B rounds, preparing for scale. You must have seen some interesting cap tables over the years. Some companies that went on to major success." Maya felt the trap and the opportunity simultaneously. "You could say that, dude." Derek's voice carried the particular condescension of someone explaining reality to the deliberately obtuse. "Trust me, Maya's not working with companies that have Series A rounds. She's probably helping the local coffee shop balance their register." "Actually," James said, his voice cooling several degrees, "the most successful tech consultants often stay under the radar. They don't need flashy offices or big titles because their results speak for themselves. Word of mouth in Silicon Valley is everything, and reputation matters more than marketing." He looked at Maya with something that felt dangerous, thrilling, like standing at the edge of a cliff. "Have you ever worked with resale tech companies?" "That's my fund's primary focus." The table went still. Maya felt 15 pairs of eyes fix on her. Waiting, watching. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I've consulted in that space," she said carefully. "Why do you ask?" "There's a company I've been studying for years. Revolutionary platform that fundamentally changed how we think about sustainable consumption. Second. Have you heard of it?" Leo made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite surprise. "I use Second all the time. It's literally the best resale app on the market." James turned to him with genuine interest, and Maya saw something in his expression shift, respect for Leo's enthusiasm, curiosity about his analysis. "You do? What do you like about it?" "The verification system is incredible," Leo said. Warming to the topic. Every item is authenticated through a combination of AI analysis and human expert review. The community moderation means buyers and sellers actually respect each other instead of just trying to maximize profit. And the pricing algorithm is fair. It's not about gouging people, it's about real value based on condition, rarity, and actual market demand. That's a sophisticated analysis. James looked genuinely impressed. Most adults don't understand the platform's architecture that deeply. Sienna laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Leo's obsessed with secondhand shopping. It's like his whole personality. Kind of weird for a kid, but whatever. James's response was immediate and cold. Actually, Gen Z is driving the sustainable fashion movement. Resale tech is a $30 billion market specifically because young people like Leo understand that consumption patterns need to fundamentally change. There's nothing weird about being ahead of the curve. If anything, it's weird not to be. Sienna's smile faltered. She looked to Derek for support, but even he seemed taken aback by James's sharp tone. Maya felt warmth flood her chest, not just gratitude, but something deeper, more complicated. Thank you for saying that. Their eyes locked, and the tension between them shifted, charged with something that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with recognition. Victoria noticed. Maya saw her sister's expression harden, calculating, assessing threat. Dessert arrived, bourbon pecan pie that probably cost $50 a slice, and Victoria stood, tapping her wine glass with practiced dramatic timing. Before we dig into this amazing pie, I have an announcement. She smiled at the table, her neural band pulsing with what Maya recognized as elevated heart rate, nervousness disguised as excitement. James, this actually involves your expertise. Maya's stomach dropped. She knew that tone, that setup. I've been thinking about giving back to the community, Victoria continued. And I've decided to establish the Chin Family Foundation, a charitable fund to help struggling families get back on their feet. Derek jumped in right on cue. This is genius, Vic really inspired, thank you. And our first recipient will be someone very close to our hearts. Someone who's been through so much and deserves a fresh start. Maya felt Leo's hand find hers under the table, gripping tight. She knew what was coming, had known since Victoria sent that first announcement text. Maya, sweetie. Victoria's voice dripped with compassion so false it felt obscene. We're going to set up a fund for you. $50,000 to start, enough for a down payment on a reliable car, a new wardrobe for job interviews, maybe even some career counseling. As a family, we've decided it's time we stopped watching you struggle and actually did something about it. The humiliation was designed to be total, absolute, a public declaration of her failure wrapped in the language of love. Patricia nodded with tragic maternal concern. Richard offered platitudes about accepting help. Derek talked about life reboots like Maya was a malfunctioning system needing reinstallation, and Sienna was filming everything, tears actually forming in her eyes for the camera. This is what real family looks like, guys. I'm literally crying. The Chin family is so generous. Maya sat frozen, every carefully constructed defense threatening to crumble. 15 years of hiding, of staying small, of protecting the truth, all of it converging into this single moment of choreographed compassion designed to cement her place at the bottom of the family hierarchy. Beside her, Leo was shaking with rage, his hand crushing hers. Victoria turned to James, her expression earnest. James, maybe your fund could partner with us? Turn this into a larger initiative for struggling single mothers in the tech space. James looked physically uncomfortable, his voice turning to ice. Victoria, I don't think. Maya stood slowly, the movement drawing every eye in the room. That's very generous, Victoria. Her voice came out steady, controlled, nothing like the chaos churning in her chest. But I have to decline. Victoria's false concern didn't waver. Maya, I know pride can be difficult, but it's not pride. Maya met her sister's eyes, seeing the calculation there. the performance. I just don't need your money, Derek laughed, the sound ugly and dismissive. Maya, come on. You drive a car that's held together with duct tape. You shop at Goodwill. We're not judging, we're trying to help. I drive that car because it's paid off and reliable. I shop secondhand because it's sustainable and smart. Maya felt something unlock in her chest, 15 years of silence finally breaking. And I don't need your help because I'm not struggling. I never was, Patricia's voice carried warning. Sweetheart, there's no need to be defensive, James stood abruptly, his movement cutting through Patricia's building speech. His voice rang clear, commanding. Impossible to ignore. Actually, before this goes any further, I need to ask Maya something directly. The room went silent. Even Sienna's camera stopped moving. James looked at Maya, and in his eyes she saw recognition, understanding, the question he'd been asking since he walked through the door. Are you Chen? The question detonated in the silence. Victoria's confusion was genuine. Chen? Whose? But James ignored her, his entire focus on Maya. The founder of ThreadSecond. The person I've been trying to meet for 2 years. When Victoria mentioned her sister did tech bookkeeping, I thought it was impossible. But then I saw your name on the place card, and I had to know. Maya looked at this man who'd recognized her work before he knew her name. Who'd defended her son without being asked. Who drove a 10-year-old Volvo and kept his mural band deactivated and saw value instead of price tags. She made her decision. Yes, she said clearly. I'm Chen. Maya woke the morning after Thanksgiving to 17 missed calls, 9 texts, and 3 increasingly desperate voicemails from her mother. The sunlight filtered through her apartment's old-fashioned curtains, real fabric, not smart glass that adjusted to optimal sleep conditions, and for the first time in 15 years, she felt the specific lightness that came from no longer carrying other people's opinions of her worth. Her phone buzzed again. Victoria, for the 5th time that morning. Maya silenced it and padded to the kitchen, where Leo was already making coffee using their ancient drip machine. Most people used molecular synthesizers now, perfectly calibrated caffeine delivery systems that cost 3 months' rent. Their machine cost $12 at a thrift store and made coffee that tasted like memory. You're not going to answer them, are you? Leo asked, handing her a mug. Not yet. Maya wrapped her hands around the warmth, feeling the ceramic's imperfection, the small chip on the rim that she'd never bothered to replace. I need to figure out what I actually want, not just react to what they need from me. What do you want? The question hung between them, deceptively simple. Maya had spent so long defining herself in opposition to her family's expectations that she'd almost forgotten she was allowed to want things on her own terms. Her phone buzzed again, but this time, the notification made her smile. James Huang. The message was simple, direct, nothing like the desperate negotiations filling her voicemail. Good morning. I've been up since 5 thinking about last night. Not the chaos, the moment when you stood up and chose yourself. Also, Sophie wants to know if she can bring her ThreadSecond portfolio to dinner. She has questions. Maya typed her response before she could second-guess it. Tell Sophie to bring the portfolio. And tell yourself to bring the homemade salsa you promised. I'm taking both of you very seriously. Leo was watching her over the rim of his coffee mug, one eyebrow raised in an expression he'd definitely inherited from her. You're smiling at your phone. That's new. Shut up, just saying. It's a good look on you. Before Maya could respond, Leo set down his mug with the particular deliberateness that meant he'd been planning what to say. Mom, I need to tell you something. Maya's stomach tightened reflexively. Years of single parenthood had trained her to expect crisis. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He pulled out his phone. Opened his banking app, showed her the screen. I've been saving money through ThreadSecond for 3 years. Reselling vintage finds, authenticating items for other users, building a reputation in the community. I have $4,200, Leo, that's incredible, and I want to take you out for breakfast. Somewhere nice. Because you deserve to be celebrated, and I want to be the first person to do it without an agenda. Maya's eyes burned with the particular sting that came before tears. Leo Chen, you are the best thing I ever created. And it's not even close. They went to a small French cafe that had somehow survived the automation wave, real waiters, real food prepared by human hands. The kind of place that charged premium prices for the authenticity most restaurants had programmed out of existence. Leo insisted on paying, his face serious as he handed over his carefully saved cash, over croissants that flaked properly and coffee that tasted like actual beans instead of optimized caffeine delivery. Leo asked the question Maya had been avoiding. What are you going to do about Grandma and Aunt Victoria? Maya tore off a piece of croissant, watching the butter-saturated layers separate. Part of me wants to cut them off completely. They've earned it, but the other part remembers that I built Thread second on a principle. Second chances. Giving things and people another opportunity to prove their value. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't extend that to my own family. Leo considered this, his expression thoughtful in the way that reminded Maya he wasn't a child anymore. What if they don't change? Then I'll know I tried. And I can walk away with a clear conscience. That afternoon, Victoria showed up at Maya's apartment looking like a different person. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that Maya recognized as something from college, back before Victoria had learned to armor herself in designer labels and platinum neurobands. Please don't close the door. Victoria's voice cracked on the words. I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm begging you to hear me out. Maya stood in the doorway for a long moment, feeling the weight of 15 years of casual cruelty, of charity announcements and pitying looks and small humiliations wrapped in concern. Then she stepped aside. Victoria sat on Maya's thrift store couch like she was afraid it might collapse, which was ridiculous, because Maya had checked the frame carefully before buying it and the construction was solid oak, built to last decades before planned obsolescence became standard practice. I'd been sitting in my house for 18 hours trying to figure out how I became this person. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap, her platinum neural band dark and inactive. The person who would humiliate her own sister. And I keep coming back to the same answer. I was jealous. Maya sat in the chair across from her, maintaining distance, control. Jealous of what? Victoria, you have everything, I have nothing that's mine. The words came out harsh, bitter. My career is what Mom pushed me into because she needed at least one daughter to be professionally successful. My marriage is, she laughed, the sound broken. Richard and I haven't been happy in years. We just keep performing because divorce would be failure, and Chens don't fail. Maya stayed quiet, letting Victoria fill the silence. My daughters are being raised by AI tutors and nanny bots because I'm working 80-hour weeks to make partner. And every time I looked at you, Victoria's voice cracked. You were free. You made choices based on what you valued, not what would look good on your social credit score. You raised Leo yourself. You built something you actually believed in. And instead of admiring that, I resented it, Vic, because if you could be happy without all the things I'd sacrificed everything for, what did that say about my choices? Victoria was crying now, real tears that smeared her face without the benefit of waterproof cosmetics. I made myself miserable to meet Mom's standards. And then I saw you refusing to even try, and I hated you for it. Because you had the courage I didn't. Maya sat with that, feeling the complicated knot of anger and pity and old affection that came with family. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Victoria continued. I'm just asking for a chance to try to be a better sister. A real one. Even if it takes years. The silence stretched between them, heavy with accumulated damage and tentative hope. if we're going to rebuild this, Maya said carefully, it can't be about my money. It can't be about what I can do for you or Derek or Mom. It has to be about actual relationship, I know, and you have to stop treating Leo like he's less than your daughters. He's brilliant and kind, and he deserves better, Victoria nodded, something in her expression shifting. Blair and Chloe were devastated when they found out. They'd been mocking someone who's more accomplished at 14 than they'll probably ever be. I think it actually shook them. Made them question everything we'd been teaching them about worth and status. Good. Maybe they'll learn something. Victoria looked around Maya's apartment, really looked, maybe for the first time. Can I ask why you kept it secret for so long? Maya thought about how to explain 15 years of deliberate invisibility, of watching and waiting and learning exactly who people were when they thought you had nothing to offer them. Because I wanted to know who people really were. Money changes everything, how you're treated, what people want from you, whether their affection is genuine. I needed to raise Leo in a world where people valued him for who he is, not what his mother's bank account says about him, and now he's old enough to understand the difference. And I'm done making myself small to make other people comfortable. Victoria stood to leave, moving slowly like someone recuperating from illness. At the door, she paused. Thank you for hearing me out. I know trust is earned, not given. So I'll try to earn it, Vic? Maya called as her sister reached for the handle. I'm having dinner with James and his daughter Thursday. If you wanted to bring Blair and Chloe over Friday for movie night, Leo would probably like that. A chance to actually get to know his cousins. Victoria's face crumpled with something that looked like relief or gratitude or hope. Really? Second chances, remember? But Victoria, if you hurt him again, we're done. Not as sisters. As anything, I won't. I promise. Derek showed up Monday with a completely different energy, no contrition, no self-reflection, just a leather portfolio full of blueprints and financial projections. He'd reactivated his neural band, Maya noticed, the gold status pulse announcing his presence before he even knocked. Maya. I've been crunching numbers all weekend. He spread the blueprints across her kitchen table without asking, his enthusiasm the practiced kind that came before a pitch. I have an incredible opportunity for you. My waterfront development, with your capital and my expertise, we could double your investment in 3 years. 50 million minimum return. Maya stayed seated, hands wrapped around her coffee mug. Derek, I'm not investing in your development, just hear me out. The location is prime, the market indicators show. I don't care about the market indicators. I'm not giving you money. Derek's expression shifted, confusion giving way to frustration. Why not? You have it. I'm family. This is what families do, they support each other. Where was this energy when I needed support? Maya's voice stayed level, controlled. When I was building Thread Second and you told me I was wasting my time on a pipe dream, I didn't understand what you were building. But now I do, and I can see the bigger picture. With our combined resources, there is no our combined resources. Maya set down her mug with enough force to make Derek flinch. There's my company that I built, and your development that you want funded. Those are not the same thing. Derek's mask slipped, revealing the entitlement underneath. So what, you're going to hoard your money while your family struggles? Victoria told me about Richard's practice debts. Mom's retirement fund took a hit in the last market correction. I'm over-leveraged on 2 properties. You could help all of us. Let me tell you what I'm actually going to do with my money. Maya stood, forcing Derek to look up at her. I'm expanding ThreadSecond's sustainability initiatives. I'm funding scholarships for first-generation college students. I'm investing in women-founded businesses that banks won't touch because the founders don't have the right connections or neural band ratings. And I'm making sure my son never has to choose between his values and his security. And your family just gets nothing? You get exactly what you gave me. The truth about who you are. Derek's face went hard, ugly. You know what? You haven't changed at all. You're still the self-righteous, judgmental little sister who thinks she's better than everyone. You just have money now to make yourself feel superior. Derek, you can leave on your own, or I can call Leo in here to escort you out. Your choice. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Maya stood in the sudden quiet, feeling the clean finality of a relationship she'd probably never had in the first place. Some people couldn't see past their own entitlement. Some people didn't deserve second chances. She was okay with that. Her mother was harder. Patricia called 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. Her voice carrying the careful neutrality of someone who'd been practicing what to say. I'd like to take you to lunch. Just the two of us. No Victoria, no Derek. Just my daughter. They met at a modest Italian restaurant, not the expensive places Patricia usually chose for their social credit score boosts and photo opportunities. This place had checkered tablecloths and actual humans cooking in the back, the kind of establishment Patricia would normally dismiss as quaint. Patricia looked older, Maya thought. Smaller somehow, without the armor of designer clothes and platinum mural bands and the perpetual performance of successful matriarch. I'd been in therapy, Patricia said after they'd ordered. The words coming out stiff, uncomfortable. Maya's surprise must have shown on her face. 3 sessions so far. It was, your father's death. I never actually processed it. The grief. And I think I spent 30 years trying to make sure you girls never felt the financial insecurity I felt as a widow. But somewhere along the way, financial security became the only thing that mattered to me. Maya stayed quiet, letting her mother speak. I failed you. Patricia's hand shook slightly as she reached for her water glass. I made you feel like you weren't enough because you didn't fit my definition of success. And the truth is, you were always enough. You were extraordinary, and I was too afraid of my own failures to see it. Mom, my therapist asked me what I was most proud of about my daughters. And when I really thought about it, not the rehearsed answer I give at social functions, but the real answer, it was you. You raised a remarkable son alone. You built a company that changed an industry. You stayed true to yourself even when everyone around you said you were wrong. That's courage I never had. Maya felt tears tracking down her face, hot and unexpected. Do you mean that? Or are you saying what you think I need to hear? Patricia met her eyes, and Maya saw something there she'd never seen before. Genuine vulnerability, stripped of performance. I mean it. You survived. But more than that, you thrived. There's a difference. They sat in that moment, 30 years of misunderstanding beginning to untangle into something that might eventually become understanding. Can I meet the real you? Patricia asked quietly. Not the daughter I tried to mold you into, but the woman you actually are. I'd like that. It wasn't perfect. Patricia still made comments about appearances sometimes, still struggled with her ingrained patterns. But she was trying, and that was enough for now. Thursday evening arrived with the particular quality of nervousness Maya hadn't felt since her first venture capital pitch. She changed clothes 3 times before Leo physically removed the options from her hands. Mom. You're spiral braiding your hair. You only do that when you're anxious. What if this is a mistake? What if I'm not ready? What if, Mom? Leo's hands on her shoulders were firm, grounding. He saw you eviscerate your entire family and asked for your number. He's not going anywhere. They drove to the food truck park, a collection of sustainable vendors who'd resisted the automated food synthesizer trend, and found James and Sophie already there. Sophie was tall, biracial, with natural hair in intricate braids and an energy that reminded Maya of Leo at his most enthusiastic. Oh my God, you're her. Sophie rushed forward before James could stop her. You're Chen. I have so many questions. First, how did you solve the authentication problem? Because counterfeit luxury goods were destroying the resale market. And your verification system is literally genius, Maya laughed, genuinely delighted. Okay, but can I at least say hello first? James looked mock apologetic. I tried to warn you. She's been preparing questions for 3 days. No, this is perfect. Let's talk about it. They spent 2 hours at the food truck park, the conversation flowing with the ease of people who actually listen to each other. Sophie and Leo bonded immediately over sustainable fashion and entrepreneurial philosophy. James and Maya talked about everything: their divorces, their parenting philosophies, their shared conviction that wealth meant nothing if it cost you your values. Can I confess something? James said, his voice dropping to something more intimate as the kids wandered off to examine another food truck. I've been following ThreadSecond's growth for 4 years. Reading every interview, every article. And I kept thinking, this founder gets it. They understand that business can be a force for good, not just profit extraction. That's been the hardest part. Maya wrapped her hands around her biodegradable cup, feeling its warmth. Investors kept pushing me to prioritize growth over values. Make it exclusive. Charge higher fees. Maximize profit at the expense of mission, but you didn't, I couldn't. The whole point was making sustainable shopping accessible. If I'd turned it into another luxury marketplace for people to signal status, I would have betrayed everything I built it for. James moved slightly closer, the space between them charged with possibility. That's why I wanted to meet you. Not to pitch an investment. Just to tell you that what you built matters. It changed how I think about capitalism itself. Sophie's stage whisper carried across the park. Are they going to kiss? Because the tension is literally visible from here. Leo's response was equally audible. Give it time, Maya laughed, breaking the intensity, but James's hand found hers as they walked back to the parking area, the touch electric and deliberate. I know this is fast, James said quietly. We just met. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since Thanksgiving. Not Chen, the founder. Maya. The woman who chose values over validation. The mother who raised that incredible kid. The person who stayed true to herself even when it cost her everything. James, I need to be honest. Maya stopped walking, forcing herself to voice the fear. I haven't dated anyone seriously since my divorce. I've been so focused on Leo and the company. I don't know if I remember how to do this, then we'll figure it out together. His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility. Can I see you again? Just us next time, James smiled, and it transformed his entire face. There's a vintage bookstore in Oakland that serves incredible coffee. We could spend an afternoon just talking. No family drama. No business pitches. Just 2 people getting to know each other. Saturday? 2, it's a date. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, full of promise and the particular sweetness that came from finding someone who saw you clearly and chose you anyway. When they broke apart, Sophie and Leo were watching from James's car, both giving enthusiastic thumbs up. 6 months passed in a blur of coffee dates and family dinners and the slow, careful work of rebuilding relationships that had been broken and building new ones that felt solid. Christmas arrived, and Maya stood in her new home, not a mansion, but a beautiful sustainable house with solar panels and a garden where Leo grew vegetables. Feeling like she'd finally found the place where she belonged. The gathering was small. Victoria came with Blair and Chloe, who'd become genuinely close with Leo after weeks of movie nights and sustainability projects. Patricia brought thoughtful gifts, books Maya had mentioned wanting, donations to Leo's favorite environmental charities made in his name. Diana arrived with her wife and their new baby. James and Sophie had become such regulars that Sophie had her own designated chair at the table. Derek hadn't come. He'd sent a card, stiff, formal, clearly obligatory, and Maya felt nothing about his absence except relief. James stood, raising his glass, his eyes finding Maya across the table. "I'd like to make a toast. 6 months ago, I met a woman who taught me that true wealth isn't about what you have. It's about who you are when no one's watching. Maya, you're the most remarkable person I've ever met. And I'm grateful every day that you gave me a chance," Sophie groaned dramatically. "Dad's being modest. He's been talking about proposing for like 2 months." The room went silent. James's expression shifted from romantic to horrified in half a second. "Oops," Sophie said, not looking remotely sorry. "Was that supposed to be a secret?" Leo started laughing first, breaking the tension. "Sophie, you're the worst." James recovered quickly, turning to face Maya fully. "Well, that's not how I planned this. But since it's out there, Maya, I'm not proposing today. We're not ready yet, and I know that. But I want you to know I'm in this. Fully. Whatever pace you need, whatever timeline works for you and Leo. I'm not going anywhere." Maya felt tears prickling her eyes, but they were good tears, the kind that came from being seen and chosen and valued for exactly who you were. "I'm in this too. And for the record, when you do propose, skip the fancy restaurant. Just be yourself." "So you're saying I have a chance?" "I'm saying you already won." They kissed, deep and real, while Sophie groaned and Leo pretended to gag and everyone else clapped. Later, after most guests had left, Leo pulled Maya aside, his expression serious. "Mom, I got my early acceptance letter from Stanford today." Maya screamed, actually screamed, loud enough that James came running from the kitchen. "What? Leo? Why didn't you tell me immediately?" "Because I wanted to wait until tonight. Until we were surrounded by people who actually care. Because this moment, this is what you built. Not just the company. This family. This life." Maya pulled him into a hug, this person she'd raised who'd somehow become better than she'd ever dreamed. "I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too. You could have changed who you were when they mocked you. You could have shown off your money to shut them up. But you didn't. You stayed true to yourself until they had no choice but to see you. That's the real power move." As Leo went back to celebrate with Sophie and his cousins, James wrapped his arms around Maya's waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "You okay?" "I'm perfect. For the first time in maybe ever, I'm actually perfect. You were always perfect." Some people just couldn't see it. They stood together, watching the family she'd chosen and built, and Maya thought about revenge and validation and the specific freedom that came from no longer needing either one. She'd won, but not because she'd proven anyone wrong. She'd won because she'd proven herself right, about what mattered. About how to live, about the difference between worth and value. 1 year later, Maya stood on a stage at a women's entrepreneurship conference, the Thread Second logo projected behind her, facing hundreds of aspiring founders who wanted to know her secret. "When I started Thread Second, I was a single mother with a laptop and a belief that sustainability could be profitable," she began. "Everyone told me I was wrong. My family told me to get a real job. Investors told me the market was too small. I kept going anyway." She clicked to the next slide, a photo of her old Honda Civic, still running at 245,000 miles. "I drove this car for 15 years. Not because I had to. But because I wanted to. Because every dollar I didn't spend impressing people was a dollar I could invest in what mattered." She paused, letting that sink in. "And you know what? That car became a symbol of staying true to yourself even when everyone thinks you're crazy." The next slide showed Maya with Leo, James, and Sophie at Leo's Stanford move-in day. "This is my real wealth. Not the millions in my bank account. Them, final slide, the thread second mission statement. Build something that matters. Value people over profit. Stay true to yourself even when it costs you. And remember, the people who underestimate you are doing you a favor. They're showing you exactly who they are, and giving you permission to prove them wrong without saying a word. Her phone buzzed as she left the stage. Leo's text made her smile. Mom, they're playing your speech on the screen in the Stanford Student Center. Everyone's freaking out. You're kind of a legend. Love you. James was waiting by the Honda, because of course he was. Some things were worth keeping, not because they were valuable, but because they reminded you of who you'd been and who you'd become. Ready to go home? He asked. Always, Maya said, and meant it.